This shiur is dedicated, first of all, to the hero Hadar Goldin, who was brought to burial today in Israel after being held for 11 years by the Hamas, and today he was brought to be buried in Israel. He's from my hometown in Israel, not so far from where my parents live. It says in the Zohar that Gevurah, heroism, is the ability to condense the light, to condense the light, however, not to hide the light, but to condense the light. And the reason is to allow somebody else to see. Because if the light is too bright, you can't see it. It will blind you. So we need to condense. Almost like the Gevurah would be like sunglasses that you put on in order for you to be able to see, not to hurt your eyes. Hagibor, the hero, is not a person who conquers others, but rather a person who knows how to conquer and control his own self. As we say about Moshe Rabbeinu was what? Anav mikol adam. He was most humble than any person. Why? Because Moshe Rabbeinu knew that all his power and all his abilities are not really his, but rather was given to him by God. The Zohar says in Chelek Gimel over there, it says, Let odna livera nasa ke'anvata dehi tikuna dechol gufa. There's no better jewel for the person than being humble. Why? Because humbleness fixes up the whole entire body. Humbleness fixes up all your midot. All your quality is being fixed by the component of being humble. Now, being humble does not mean that you don't have no backbone. So we'll see exactly what it means. But in the Zohar we see that even the tzaddik, right, is expected to become a hero, right? But when we're talking about a hero, he's a hero of a spiritual heroism, right? In other words, where he is a hero in the fighting against his yetzer, against his earthly urges. As it says, Man hu gibor, who is a hero? The kafi yitzre. Who is the hero? He who overcomes and conquers his own urges, his own desire. And it seems in a way that these two qualities, humbleness and heroism, gibor on one hand, it seems impossible for them to really be together in harmony, to operate in harmony. Because it seems to us as the complete opposition forces. One is going this way, inside, the other is going outside. It's not the same thing. So how do we create this, excuse me for lack of better terms, how do we create this Jewish yin-yang of harmony, of flowing together, of two opposing forces working together? So we need to understand. The Zohar reveals to us a tremendous secret. It says the true humbleness is not weakness, but rather self-control. If you say, "Oh, me," that's not being humble. That's called a whiner. Humbleness is your ability to control. When a person is truthfully an anav, he does not. So this is such an important point. He does not surrender to reality. Okay, that's, people say all the time, no, malasot, that's what it is. It is what it is. I don't like this expression, it is what it is. It is what it is. It's a loser mentality. But whether a gibor or an after that matter, we'll see, is a person who takes reality, does not surrender to it, but rather instead of surrendering to reality, goes above and beyond that. He overcomes what reality. He controls himself, but not from arrogance, but rather from a deep understanding, a deep awareness that all his koach, all his abilities, whatever those abilities will be, actually come from Hashem, and Hashem provides him with abilities. Don't say, because that's the mistake that we all make, and that's what the Torah warned us. כוחי ועוצם ידי אשר עשו לי את כל החיל הזה. My force, my power, my abilities did all this. No, you are wrong. It's HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God Himself gave you the abilities and the opportunities to actually utilize it. You by yourself cannot generate anything. You could choose to operate or not to operate, but you should know that those abilities came from you from God. If a person, let's say for example, possesses an IQ of like superior IQ, let's say like 170, he's a genius of geniuses, right? Well, he created it by himself. Where did it come from? He did something. I mean, he bought a chip and put it into his head. Yeah, that's good when you go to the computer. You take your computer, you put more memory inside of it. Even the computer is then limited by the motherboard, but the big, his ability. If you're going to put too much memory and higher chips, it's not going to be able to operate it. It also need to be planned accordingly. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you all these abilities. Each one of us has those superior abilities that were given to him by God. They're not all the same. It's not a matter of being equal. They're not the same. One person, has the ability to create fine art. For example, if you ever seen handmade Japanese combs, it's impossible. You say it's impossible that it could be made because the grooves are so fine, but yet the person made it. But maybe this person cannot arrange. I don't know. He cannot arrange something or cannot learn math, but he can do. Each one has a different ability. Therefore, you should not be jealous. Instead of being jealous of what the other person has, look at what you have and be very happy and proud of it. It's a gift. The gift that you have is a gift that was given you by God. One thing somebody else, and that's the understanding. When I'm jealous at somebody else, I'm not jealous at somebody else. I'm upset that God gave him and not me. Being jealous is a claim against God, God forbid. And we need to change that. Oh, look what I have. Baruch Hashem, I'm very happy. Thank God what I have. Whatever I have, it's what God gave me is a gift. Let's say, for example, you all of a sudden you get a call from the White House. Say, hello, this is the White House. Say, yes, you were chosen after close examination by a committee and by the president himself to give you a coffee cup that the president himself used, argument's sake, with the dedication to you, my dear fellow American, with your name on it. This is given to you by the President of the United States, Chief and Commander-in-Chief or whatever. What would you do? You'll throw it away? I tell you the truth. I think I'll be afraid to use it. It's such a charitable thing. I mean, after all, it's only an item given me by another person. Imagine the gift that comes to me from God. That's why you need to tap on your potential. That's why you need to look at what you have and tap into it and stop wasting time trying to copy somebody else. You can't copy anybody because he does what he does because of gift that God gave him. You can't copy it because you don't possess this gift. Look at what you have. Look internally at what you have. It's a totally different change of a mindset. We need to understand that. Since we spoke about, and I like a lot of the Japanese way of life. There's a lot to learn, and sometimes I find it easier to learn about them and apply it to us because we share many ideas that are similar. So I look at there; it's easier for me to use it. So I'll give you. Everybody knows what a Bushido is. Bushido is the code of Bushi is a warrior. Do is the way of the warrior, the way the samurais actually lived. And there's a whole book about the Bushido, and it tells you basically how to live life in all aspects of life, not only about swords and stuff. Everything. For example, one of the things that the samurai was expected to learn is, for example, the art of calligraphy, poetry, and so on and so forth. So, excuse me, what's the connection between a samurai, which is a killing machine, to calligraphy and fine arts or flower arrangement? Is to be able to control that violent thing. And we'll see exactly what it means. So in the Japanese tradition of Bushido, the true sword is not a sword that is being shining by drawing it out of the sheath. They said the best sword is the sword that was never drawn. So therefore, it's not about how fast and how good you kill. It's how you control it. How much control do you have? And if you see the art of the drawing of the sword, right? It's called Iaido versus Iaijitsu. Iaido is the art of taking the sword and taking it out. It's all about control. It's all about self-control. How many times I told you, it doesn't take a good driver to drive fast. A good driver is the one who control his driving, even driving slow. For example, you're coming to a turn, try to go into a turn at a speed try to figure out the speed at which you take the turn without touching the brake. Most people coming to a turn, many times you see it on any merging lane, into an exit. You see always scuffs mark like this all over. Why? Because people coming in too fast, and then they slam on the brake, and then you lose control. Everything is about control. So, for example, a good samurai or an experienced samurai is not going to pull the blade out when he's angry, when his heart is tinted with anger or with rage. The true force or the true mastery is being examined and determined only in the quiet before the cut. How quiet was your heart before the cut? And that's something that we need to internalize and understand that. In Japanese culture, there is an expression that's called ma. Ma is the space in between. Remember when we spoke about it last week on the shiur, we talk about in the space between things. That's why Avraham Avinu is sitting down between Kodesh and Chol. He's not sitting in the tent and he's not sitting outside of the tent. He's sitting at the opening of the tent, the ability to connect it, because everything is determined in the space in between. The quality of your actions is it's not what you do, is what you do between one action to the other. It's what you do between one action to the other. That's the concept of that. And from the quality of the space and what you do in the space, this is how you get the meaning and the quality of your actions. So you gotta be very careful with that, with what you call your free time or your spaces in between, or the transitioning between one act to the other. Many people have a problem with transitioning. That's why they always fail from connecting point A to point B. They always fail in that, because that in between is there's no meaning in it, and it's purposeless. There's no control of that free time. So is anava, humbleness, and heroism and gvura. They're not two opposing forces, Rabotai. And I have a chidush for you. Anava and gvura, humbleness and strength and might or heroism, are not two different forces. They are one force. They are the same force. They are the same ability. So if you see a person who is very arrogant and pompous, is a person who is very selfish and thinks only about himself, you know this person is not humble and is actually very weak. Because if he was not weak, he would not talk about it. Lehavdil, for example, it's like a dog. Yeah, you always see a Chihuahua. That's the dog that bark the most and the dog that bite the most. Usually are the small Chihuahua, the small little dogs. A big Dane, he's there. He doesn't need to bite. He doesn't need to bark. He's just there. So okay, oh, big Doberman, he's there. Thank you very much. I'm not coming closer. Nice to see you. A Chihuahua will bark. You need to understand that. However, so what's the difference between so-called anava and gvura? Since it's one force, it's the same force. However, it's being dressed or wrapped in a different kind of a melody to it, in a different type of wrapping. So sometimes you can wear, for example, if I would wear a suit and a tie and a hat, you would say, that looks like a rabbi. And if I wear a flannel shirt and jeans, or I wear a distressed leather jacket with a flutter underneath and black jeans with square toe boots, you're going to tell me, oh, this guy is either a motorcycle or some kind of like a tough guy, whatever. No, it's not. I'm the same person, just different clothing. Our problem is that we always determine the person based on how he's dressed, not in terms of who he is inside. And that's why we are always mistaken in analyzing who is standing in front of us. Believe me, you could see a guy who's buffed with muscles. You think this guy is strong. Lemaisa is not strong. You take a rock climber, right? He's stronger than him. The big, strong guy with the muscle that works in the gym and like all the veins are popping out cannot lift himself up on a wall. This guy with 2 fingers, he can go up and climb like a spider on a wall like this. So who is stronger? You take a big muscle guy, give him a deck of cards, he cannot rip it. You give a good rock climber, he'll rip it with his hands. Why? Because he's strong, the guy is not strong. We're buffed, we're not strong. You're going to take a weightlifter, or not weightlifter, I don't know, you're a weightlifter, you're like a bodybuilder, you give him tests that his grandfather used to do, or his great-grandfather used to do, he cannot do it. In terms of carry weights on your shoulders and walking, you cannot take 100 pounds of rucksack on your back. You can't do it. Your great grandfather could. My grandfather, my mother's father, was a twig. It's a twig, not much a twig. He used to pick up a cement bag, which is 100 pounds, 50 kilos, like I'm picking up a watermelon. Picks it up like this, puts it on the shoulder, and it was going. I was like, how the heck you do that? Well, he was strong. He wasn't buffed, he was strong. We always are wrong with that. And the anava, humbleness, you need to understand, is the root of gvura. That's the stem in which gvura grows on, and gvura is the shape of the anava. If we're talking about the concept of sferot, Kabbalistically, gvura is the limiting power, which is the tzimtzum, which puts the boundaries, and anava is a state in which the vessel remembers its source, where it came from, who created the source. A person who is humble knows, I'm just a kli, I'm just a vessel, I'm nothing more, I'm just a vessel. But a person who is a gibor knows how to create this precise vessel that can actually hold it. Because I'm just a vessel, but the ability is not going to be able to hold the light inside, and then it would shatter just like happened. A gibor, right, is a person that takes the kli and reinforces it, that it could actually hold the light within without breaking. And that's a very important spiritual lesson. So if we're going to compare the chesed, right, chesed, the quality of chesed will be the river. The quality of chesed will be the river. And the gvura is the river banks, which are important, because if we don't have the river banks, the river is not going to be able to flow without overwhelming and creating damage. The whole flow and the livelihood of the river comes because of the banks limiting it. If I'm going to have a river with wide banks, it's going to go slow. If I'm going to have it with the same river with narrow, they're going to go much faster. Like physics, Bernoulli, if you learn physics, right? However, if there are no limitation whatsoever, the river becomes what? Becomes a swamp. In our society, we have a lot of chesed, a lot of everything. But since we don't have any limits, our river of life becomes a swamp. And that's exactly what we're turning into. We turn into a swamp. If we're talking now about connecting both of them together, so therefore anava without gvura might come to a person who is going to give up on himself. I'm weak, I can't do it, things don't work my way, I'm a nothing, and so on and so forth. To the point that you're going to be so low that you're going to simply vanish and disappear. Because you're not going to be able to do anything. Gvura, strength, might, without humbleness, might make us very tough, very, together with that, also very brittle, very powerful, with a big ego. That is, in a way, the difference between fascism and extreme liberalism. We need to create something in the middle. Everything needs to be limited. When a person reminds himself all the time, I am not the center of the world. I'm not a nothing. I count for something. Unfortunately, as Jews, we forgot the fact that we are something. And we will be willing to take abuse over and over and over again without saying, listen, enough is enough. Enough is enough. We cannot rely on somebody else to take care of us. We need to stand on our 2 feet and act because we exist. Don't let anybody run all over you. As Jews, and especially in America, we forgot that. And the situation that we're coming into is because we allowed this to happen. We allowed this to happen. The way to, of course, we have to do so in a legal, civil way, but don't bend down. We have the power. Somebody says, listen, this and this and that, open your mouth. You have the power. Stand up. Go to the street. Demonstrate. I mean, I'm not saying go and loot the stores, but look, they got them somewhere. We should do the same thing. We need to stop being humble. We should stop being the piñata of everybody out there that wants to go into power. The first thing he does, he takes a Jewish piñata and just beat the daylight out of it. Enough! What you're going to do, I'm going to learn how to take the stick from you, and you're going to raise it one more time, I'm going to beat you up. That's the way it works. But not for the power, just to let me live. We need to create this balance. Right now, as Jews, we are very unbalanced because we allowed everybody to step all over us. We need to create a counter movement to become balanced. Only when you do that, you're able to create a balanced state. My teacher, alav shalom, Israel Levi, Chaim Israel Levi, sober, said to me that in life you have to be like a silk or cotton fist wrapped, steel fist that is wrapped with cotton. You have to be soft, pleasant to touch, but solid inside. When L'Avdil in China, when they bow like this, it's a combination of soft and hard together. I'm greeting you with an open hand, but if you're going to mess with me, I'll show you my fist. That's basically the way it works. And we have to understand that. To summarize it a little bit, let's say, for example, we're talking about a guy who takes care of, let's say, a bonsai tree, or somebody who is, making let's say, a statue out of stone, right? The scissors or the chisel in his hand represent the gvura, the coming in, the cutting, and so on and so forth. The internal quiet that he has inside, that's the anava. Shaping or condensing or taking the form of the tree or to the stone is not damaging. On the contrary, it's an invitation to bring about its true shape and its true character. The guy, for example, who does bonsai, I not particularly like bonsai. I like natural bonsai. I've seen natural bonsais. You go to places, you go hiking in the mountains, especially when there is a vista or something with a lot of wind, you see natural bonsais. It's amazing. But when an artist does it, he sees in his eyes the shape of the tree inside the tree that gets overwhelmed with the noise, he brings about his true shape. And a tree bonsai master is that, or like a true sculptor. He sees the shape within the stone and he brings it out. So is a person. When you cut whatever is inside of you that is excess, that is not necessary. We all have this excess. It's not necessary. You're not losing from yourself. On the contrary, you're revealing to the world and revealing to yourself who you really always were. The problem is that this excess comes many times, we're trying to look like somebody else and imitating somebody else, but not really trying to be really who we are. Accepting ideas from other people because it's more convenient for us to do it. So if anava is bitul, lowering yourself, gvura is standing up, erected, strong. The power of the true gibor is the person who is the true gibor, the true hero, is the one who combines inside of him also humbleness. He who understands the limitations of himself and the greatness of God. That's a true hero. I know I'm limited, and I know that everything that I have is the greatness of God, and whatever He gave me is in His kindness. A true hero is a person who can use his forces, his abilities, truthfully, without being too explosive, without causing damage. If I use my power to cause you damage, I'm not a hero, I'm a coward. Because I cannot see the ability of you existing with me. That's why I need to abolish you. That's why all those people who want to abolish the state of Israel and the Jewish people are not heroes. They're a bunch of cowards and hypocrites. Now, I don't care if they're mayors or lawyers or whatever they are. They're basically a bunch of cowards. A true hero is a person that is not only building, but also helps you to build as well. When we're talking about the holiness or heroism in holiness, is not the power or the ability to force people to do so, but the power to really conquer yourself and show the people the light. Unfortunately, when it comes to religious radicalism, sometimes we forget that and we're trying to force people to see things our way instead of lead by example. You live life the way you know it's the right way to live, and the light inside of you will shine and people will come to it. Don't force people to do it. As I heard one time Rabbi Mordechai Olav Shalom said, nobody was chozer b'tshuva because you threw a rock on his head and you screamed Shabbos. People were chozer b'tshuva because you showed them the light of Shabbat. And that was something that really changed my way of thinking about many other things in life. That's something to right? A person like this is a hero, is not a person that needs to prove that he's the best. Not a person that needs to prove all the time that he's great. But to feel humble in front of God. And the smallness is the true greatness. Feeling small in front of God, that is true humbleness. This is what it means to be great. A person that needs to feel all the time, I'm the best. Excuse me, am I the best? Yes. Am I the best? You're not the best. You need to go to therapy, let's put it this way. Something is wrong with you. You have a very low self-esteem. And because if you don't get this positive reinforcement that I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best, you're going to come to destroy things. You become a destructive power. That's why the Zohar says, a person always need to go, and the Rambam says, always need to go bekavayim tzayir, in the middle path. The middle path is where chesed and gvura meet. Remember where I showed you the diagram yesterday. They meet somewhere along the line. Where humbleness and arrogance meet and create a balance. When heaven and earth meet. When the oil of Avraham Avinu, right? Avraham Avinu was sitting in the oil. En oil ki oala shel Torah. And the world outside, we cannot be only here or only there. We cannot be only working or only learning. We need to be able to combine. We are the element, the core of condensation that combines it together. We hold the world of the outside, we bring him to the Torah, and people from the Torah to the world. Where do we do so? In Petach HaOhel, in the opening of the tent. This is our job. We need to understand that. Why? Because only through the middle line you see the true person. You see the true hero in his humbleness and the humble in his heroism. When we learn the Zohar every single day, Rabotai, we're not just reading an old text, but we light ourselves and the world around us in a light that is enabling us to balance between heroism, gevurah, and anava, and humbleness. Why? Because only when there's humbleness in the heart, you could hold the light without being burned, and only when there is gevurah, heroism, you're allowed to hold into anava without it turning into fear. Have a beautiful, blessed day.